So Peter, thank you for making time to share your insights into the future of leadership.
Of course.
But before we walk into the future, can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Omaha, Nebraska,
Right.
which is the heart of the Midwest in the States, and spent most of my life in Nebraska before moving away for school.
And tell us, what was your dream career?
I didn't really know what I wanted to be when I grew up. I thought I might want to be a mathematician. I thought that'd be really fun.
Right.
And that's what got me into computers in the first place, was that a lot of the really hard math problems you need big computers to solve, and learned a bit about how to program, and ended up just realizing I really like building things.
And can you tell us who inspired you, or maybe what inspired you?
Yeah. I think, I've been fortunate to have a bunch of teachers in my life, and who really have always encouraged me to push what I'm capable of, and hey, you should try. I remember a teacher made us read this book about what's called chaos theory, or nonlinear systems, essentially, in high school, and they actually made it part of the curriculum, which is sort of funny. Normally, math classes are pretty, by the book, literally, the other book, the textbook,
right.
And it was just fun to then read about all of these folks, and then the teacher say, yeah, you could do that someday, and they're using computers here. Why don't you think about how would you use a computer to solve this problem? And I think just having people who kind of believe in you, or believed in me, but also which said there's not really any rules. You don't have to wait to go and think about these problems. It's really empowering.
And today you're the CTO of one of the world's fastest technology companies. You're redefining the world of work, or the future of work. Looking back over your career, was there any turning points?
Yeah, I actually was a teacher myself. I was a professor in the university.
Yeah.
I went to do my graduate studies, and I decided to teach, and spent a lot of time actually just reading and writing papers and working with students. And for me, what I ultimately found a big turning point was I actually really liked building, not just doing research on computer science and technology, but actually building software. And we'd done a bunch of work through open source software, and we had users who were picking up some of that open source, and I was having more fun, writing, essentially writing the programs than writing papers at that point. And so I decided to start my own company from the university, or from the university position, took a leave of absence, and then the rest was history. I realized that there's a lot of interesting technical problems to solve in academia. There's also a lot of really interesting technical problems to solve in the world.
Absolutely.
And there's many of the problems in the world that also have a big impact on people, and that impact kind of just kept me going.
And tell us, Peter, what is driving you today? What is motivating you?
Yeah, I think just technology is an incredible change agent in the world, and I think a change agent for good. And what I'm excited about is, how do you use technology to make people's lives better? At Workday, it's about making work better for everyone.
Right.
Because people spend a lot of time on work, and I think when you get, in our case, tens of thousands of people together, aligned around a mission like that, you can move mountains for literally, millions of people, and that's pretty cool. It's incredible leverage, and I think it's like the universe seems more malleable now than maybe ever, in human history.
Right. And tell us, looking into the future, what does the future of leadership mean to you?
Yeah, I think that leadership comes down to a couple things. One, really inspiring, right? Like leadership comes with followership, right?
Yeah.
So, what is the vision of the better state of the world, or better state of an organization that is plausible enough to be realistic, right? But is also far enough in the future to be inspiring, right? And really, like, that vision, I think, is a key part about getting groups of people together to go and do incredible things. And then I think the second part beyond vision is just support. How do you create an environment where people feel like they can be the bridge between where we are today and where we want to be over time, and feel supported in walking over that bridge, and building that bridge in many cases themselves, right? And then I think that the final piece is just leadership's all about being human, right? And I think there's a really human element about getting people, together, and people are interesting in all sorts of ways. When you get many people together, it makes things even more interesting. I think just connecting on the human level is just like, there's just such an intangible part about connecting with people on a very human level, in terms of understanding, what gets them out of bed in the morning, what is their dream for the world look like, and how do you do something amazing together.
And tell us, in your opinion, what is it we have to do to empower, to enable, to develop future leaders?
It's a great question. I think a lot of this, certainly in the field of technology, like a lot of it's just inspiring people to, and almost like waking the sleeping giants within to realize, hey, you can do so much, right? It's kind of a paradox, right? On the one hand, there's so much change I think we'll see in our lifetime that ultimately, individuals and then groups of people are going to affect around technology and AI affecting every part of our society. I think the biggest thing we can do as a society is just encourage people to dream big. And the paradox is, you dream big and you actually execute very small. It's one step at a time. You climb the mountain, one step at a time.
Now, Peter, these are challenging times as the world is stumbling from one crisis into the next. What is your advice for future leaders in terms of challenges? How should they handle career challenges and overcome these challenges?
Yeah, I think if you let the territory define, how you feel or where you are, it's very challenging, right? Because you can't control the territory. To extend the mountain metaphor, there's gonna be valleys and gullies and on your path to the top. Or whatever that means. And the funny thing is, once you reach probably the top of that mountain, there's 3 more in the future, right? So it never really stops. In order to go to that next mountain, you probably have to go down and then up. So I think that, to the extent to which it's possible for leaders to identify, what is their personal, North Star? What's their vision for where they want to be personally, but maybe more importantly, like the change they want to make in the world. And then what are the principles they have on their internal North Star in terms of getting there? Use those principles as the compass to walk one step at a time. And then, get out of bed every morning reminding yourself, why you're doing what you're doing, which, I think if you judge it entirely on, I want this title or that title or this promotion, those are like very little of that's in your control. But like, no one really controls your dreams.
Now, Peter, if you were to design a curriculum for future leaders, what are some of the key skills you would want to factor in and maybe teach?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's really hard to teach a lot of leadership in a classroom environment. Like you can kind of read fantastic books about leadership, and the reason why these are full of anecdotes is it's like an anecdote's almost like a little snippet of life that someone can try to impart. But if you were to compare the educational quality, just hypothetically, of reading the anecdote or being told the anecdote versus living that experience, the lived experience, I think is ultimately really where the rubber meets the road. So I think designing curriculum is close to a simulation as possible, really simulating that step by step iteration. I think that courses where there's kind of a course project, and if teams of people working together to achieve a goal, and you're really attempting the impossible, shooting for the stars, landing on the moon, like I think that type of experience is really, really valuable. So I do find like hands-on project-oriented work can give you something in between reading the anecdote in the business book and then the years of lived experience in a compressed setting, to give people, I think, ultimately like the grit or the resilience to understand that it's not always going to be up and to the right every single day.
And Peter, as a mentor to many future leaders, can you maybe share a success story or two where you mentored an upcoming leader and that person took your advice to heart?
Yeah, it's a great question. A couple examples come to mind. Let me think about what would make the most sense. One of the projects I worked on very early in the modern AI wave was teaching models how to use how to use data better, so databases. And this is in the context of a very, very large data system. And when we started the project, there were high expectations, incredibly high expectations, external pressures, from leadership to deliver incredible AI, and then there's a reality which the models weren't very good at actually using this. And the leader who I was working with, they were like kind of a bit caught in a bind, right? And you never want the leader to be in a situation where they feel like they have high expectations and no path to kind of go and get there, right? And so what we worked on together was first, what would a reasonable 6-month and 12-month set of goals look like based on where the technology is today? How do we, one of the best things is, if this problem feels impossible, how do you reframe the problem? But what you really want, and this happens all the time with customers. Customers have a lot of things that are problematic about a product or service, but you need to figure out what's the right framing of that that's achievable. So for us, it was, hey, we can't solve all of these tasks with data. We can solve a handful of these very well, and we think this is tractable. We can go move towards this. So it's a reset with the executive kind of stakeholders involved. And then on the other side, we actually spent time in this case, on a very technical project, working with some of the AI teams, other AI teams, to really improve the core technology, in a way where what was being asked was actually closer to reality.
Right.
And so it was sort of, in this case, this leader was here because he believed in the transformative potential. They were sort of in an impossible situation between a gap on technology and customer expectation, and we worked together to essentially reset the problem, increase the speed limit at the other end, and it turned out in 2 years we were able to achieve the goals, and in 1 year we were able to ship something together, and that person is now a scaled AI product leader running some of the most impactful AI projects in that organization.
Great.
Yeah.
And Peter, last but not least, are there any role models of leadership whom you've encountered and maybe worked with, who you would recommend future leaders should study and learn from?
It's a great question. I was fortunate early in my career to work with 2 leaders in Silicon Valley who I think are really great examples of high technical caliber and also really just lots of grit.
Yeah.
So one of my grad school advisors ended up starting a company called Databricks, Ali Godsi, and he's a great example of again, growth mindset at all stages, right? Going from being a visiting researcher to being a CEO of a $100 billion company, just learning all of the time. Also just pushing through, run through walls on a bunch of challenges, and then really, having a vision and getting after it. And there's a lot of great, podcasts and content he's put out over the years around how they've built Databricks, which is kind of an incredible transformation story. The other one was one of our board members of the company I started was Ben Horowitz. I mentioned Ben Horowitz because he's written some really great books about leadership. This is like, the anecdotes in business books are not very useful, but Ben's anecdotes in this book say hard thing about hard things. They're probably the closest to reality that I've seen, at least in a high growth, tech environment. And I think that, Ben's humility is really warranted. I think he's also an incredible student. He's always learning. And I think in that case for leadership, this is a great example of how to lead through the valleys. The hard thing about hard things, I remember reading the book, I said, what's the hard thing? And it's like, it's that hard things are hard. They're intrinsically challenging, right? And so a lot of the consequences of that, which Ben demonstrates in his book, it's like, you're going to hit valleys. You got to just keep, you got to keep going, own it, And when you're leading people through a valley, how do you do that effectively? I think Ben is incredible at that.
Well, Peter, thank you so much for making time to share your leadership insights and for inspiring us to build a better future.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. This looks like an incredible project you're putting together.
Thank you.